Officer James Anderson patrolled the streets with a strong sense of duty. A seasoned police officer, he had always believed in upholding justice and serving the community but had a hidden hatred for people of color. However, the recent tensions between the police force and the African American community were palpable, making the atmosphere tense and delicate. One fateful afternoon, Officer Anderson responded to a call about a disturbance in a reserved area. As he approached the scene, he saw a group of people arguing loudly. Among them was Tyrone Johnson, a young black man who seemed to be in the midst of it all. Officer Anderson, feeling the weight of the recent events, felt a surge of anger and frustration. In the midst of the chaos, Officer Anderson confronted Tyrone, assuming him to be the instigator. Words were exchanged, and tempers flared. Despite Tyrone's attempts to explain that he was merely trying to defuse the situation, Officer Anderson's biases clouded his judgment, and he reacted impulsively. Without warning, Officer Anderson's anger boiled over, and he forcefully pushed Tyrone to the ground. The act of aggression was witnessed by several onlookers, including a young woman named Maya, who immediately pulled out her phone to record the incident. Protests filled the streets of Fairgrove, demanding justice for Tyrone and an end to police brutality. The tension between the police force and the public reached a tipping point, causing unease among even the most dedicated officers. Chief Ramirez, head of the Fairgrove Police Department, was deeply troubled by the incident. He understood the gravity of the situation and knew that immediate action was necessary to prevent further escalation. Chief Ramirez wasted no time initiating an internal investigation into the incident. He assigned the task to a trusted officer, Lieutenant Morgan, to ensure transparency and impartiality. The investigation would involve interviewing witnesses, analyzing video evidence, and examining Officer Anderson's history and conduct as a police officer. Meanwhile, Officer Anderson was grappling with his actions and the consequences they had on Tyrone's life and the community. The incident forced him to confront his own biases and prejudices, something he had denied existed within himself for years. With the weight of guilt and regret bearing down on him, he sought solace in therapy sessions and self-reflection. As the investigation proceeded, Tyrone struggled to cope with the emotional and physical aftermath of the assault. The incident had left him scarred, both mentally and emotionally. However, with the support of his family and the community, he found the strength to stand tall and speak out against police violence. The protests intensified, demanding accountability and systemic changes within the police department. After weeks of investigation and deliberation, Lieutenant Morgan presented the findings to Chief Ramirez. The evidence was clear, leaving no room for doubt. Officer Anderson had indeed used excessive force, violating the department's code of conduct and the trust of the community. The consequences were severe. Officer Anderson was dismissed from the force and charged with assault. The case garnered national attention, further emphasizing the need for accountability and change in law enforcement practices. Officer Anderson was forced to confront the consequences of his actions and begin his journey towards redemption. Being isolated from society, the weight of guilt and shame consumed him, leaving him feeling lost and broken. His wife, Sarah, stood by him, supporting his decision to seek counseling and therapy while doing time. In the safety of a therapist's office, Officer Anderson began to address the root causes of his biases and prejudices. As Officer Anderson took responsibility for his actions, the community responded with mixed emotions. Some saw his attempts at redemption as genuine, while others remained skeptical, hesitant to forgive him for the pain he had caused. He understood that trust needed to be rebuilt, and that required consistent, meaningful actions. In the months that followed, the community of Fairgrove continued its journey towards healing. The police department actively engaged with community leaders to implement reforms and rebuild trust. They increased transparency and accountability, working together to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public. Tyrone, now a prominent advocate for police reform, worked tirelessly to improve the relationship between the police and the African American community. He became actively involved in community outreach programs, working with officers to foster understanding and empathy. Officer Anderson's progress in therapy and his commitment to change eventually caught the attention of a community-led organization called Second Chances. The organization sought to rehabilitate individuals who had made grave mistakes and help them reintegrate into society. Recognizing Officer Anderson's potential for redemption, they offered him an opportunity to participate in their program. Skeptical but determined, Officer Anderson accepted the chance to rebuild his life. Under the guidance of Second Chances, Officer Anderson engaged in community service projects, assisting the less fortunate and actively participating in events aimed at promoting unity. Officer Anderson was released on good behavior. Slowly but steadily, he began earning the trust of some community members who saw his sincere efforts. While Officer Anderson embraced his second chance, Tyrone's journey towards healing was far from over. The trauma from the assault lingered, but he found strength in knowing that his advocacy had sparked a movement for change. Through counseling and the support of his family and friends, Tyrone confronted his emotions and found the capacity to forgive Officer Anderson. In a powerful gesture, Tyrone met with Officer Anderson privately, offering forgiveness and a genuine desire to work towards unity. The private meeting between Tyrone and Officer Anderson marked a pivotal moment for both of them. They began working together, addressing local schools, community gatherings, and even law enforcement trainings. Their collaboration focused on building bridges between the police and the communities they served. As they shared their experiences and perspectives, they reached hearts and minds, creating an understanding that transcended the color of their skin or their past actions. Slowly, the healing process spread throughout Fairgrove, inspiring other officers and community members to participate in the movement for positive change. People from different backgrounds found common ground in their shared humanity and the belief that redemption was possible for everyone. As years passed, the seeds of change sown in Fairgrove flourished. The relationship between the police force and the community underwent a transformation. The reforms implemented in the department proved effective, and instances of police misconduct decreased significantly. The success of second chances and similar programs inspired other communities to adopt similar approaches towards rehabilitation and reconciliation, contributing to a broader movement for justice and unity. A community center was established in his honor, offering support to victims of police brutality and providing a platform for dialogue between the community and law enforcement. Fairgrove's journey towards healing was far from perfect, but it was an inspiring example of what could be achieved when a community stood together. The shadows of justice had been replaced by the light of hope, and Fairgrove became a beacon for other communities to follow. The story of Tyrone, Officer Anderson, and Fairgrove would forever be etched in the nation's collective memory as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of redemption.